How to grind the U.S. aviation tech tree. In War Thunder Air Realistic Battle, when George Kenney was asked should you grind the American aviation tech tree, he must have had a bit of a cold, as he replied, if you really like coughing grinding, then this is the tree for you. Because all you will do is coughing grind, grind, grind. We needed a second opinion, so we asked Hap Arnold. During a coughing fit, Arnold said, every coughing other tree gets coughing U.S. aircraft, even the coughing Germans get a coughing P-47. We reached out to Halsey but got a terse reply about how the Japanese couldn't shoot down a coughing B-17, yet one magically appears in their coughing tech tree. Apparently he was under the weather as well. Fortunately, their coughs all started with the letter F, so we are certain it wasn't COVID. If you love American aircraft, then you will enjoy grinding the British, Russian, German, Japanese, Italian, Chinese, Swedish and Israeli trees. If you love American aircraft, then you will hate grinding the US tech tree. Why? Coughing why? Sorry, bit of a tickle in my throat there. Seems to be catching. From 1943 onwards, the US was the dominant industrial, technical and military power. Through Lend-Lease and post-war exports, everyone flew American aircraft. That explains every tech tree having US vehicles, but why is the US such a grind in air realistic battle? Eurasia is a continental highway for invading armies, which has shaped the European political and military experience. Indo-Europeans, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Goths, Huns, Mongols, Saracens, France, Germany, they all add up to a lot of armies going back and forth across the continent. When aircraft were added to the military arsenal in World War I, their most effective use was in artillery spotting. Despite Douhet's influence, European militaries built their air power around army cooperation. The Japanese army liked the Eurasian idea of invading with big armies, and set out through Korea to China and Russia. The Japanese Navy was different, they had the big strategic problem of the Pacific Ocean. The Imperial Navy came up with a carrier task force as a result. The United States had not only the Pacific, but also the Atlantic, and by 1943 they had the additional problem of projecting power over continental Europe from Britain. With the Cold War, their strategic issues expanded to every ocean, every continent and even orbit. U.S. doctrine became global superiority through the projection of overwhelming power. How does that doctrine translate to a dogfight simulator, with a battle royale mode? Air realistic battle has 4 phases. First, the scramble, where aircraft take off and climb as high as they can, before the next phase, the merge. The teams collide at around 4.5 kilometers high. When the teams merge, there is a flurry of head-ons, emmelments, scissors, reversals or aircraft diving away. Phase 3 is the dogfight. This starts at the merge height and ends on the deck, as the teams fire away in a fun-filled furball of around 4 minutes. The last phase is the cleanup. This is where players land, rearm, and then ground pound, until the last aircraft is found or the tickets bleed down. If a bomber is space climbing, the game will end after 25 minutes, and a team will win based on tickets. What did an average day for a Mustang look like, when escorting bombers over continental Europe? The Mustangs would take off from England, climbing slowly to conserve fuel. Flying at 9 kilometers altitude, they pick up the bomber's stream, and fall into a weaving pattern, staying with the slower bombers. This would go on for 2 hours, with pilots switching back and forth between drop tanks, to keep their planes balanced. Jimmy Doolittle wanted his fighters on the offensive, so when the Mustangs had a contact, they pursued the German fighters. Commonly a dogfight ended at around 2 kilometers altitude, and the Mustangs would climb back to the bomber's stream. 5 hours later, the Mustang pilots landed back in England, ending their escort mission. The requirements of long-range high-altitude projection is a different mission profile to the needs of a battle royale dogfight simulator. In air realistic battle, the scramble is dominated by point-to-point interceptors, like the Spitfire and Bf-109. The US did not develop an aircraft for this role until there was the threat of long-range nuclear bombers. The first point-to-point interceptor in the US tech tree is the F-104 Starfighter at 10.0 BR. The dogfight phase gives advantage to light and nimble aircraft, with low wing loading, like the Zero, Spitfire and Yak-3. The US does not have a deadly dogfighter, until the F-86 Sabre appears at 8.3 BR. The Sabre suffers from BR compression, where it faces supersonics and missiles. The cleanup phase though? If you survive the merge and dogfight, US aircraft are brilliant at this. Nothing more fun than seeing several P-51s, P-47s and Corsairs wondering where the last plane is, and then deciding to ground pound. It is a turkey shoot. Tickets bleed fast. What is the fastest way to grind the US aviation tech tree? Start with the Curtiss line, progressing from the P-36 to the P-40. These aircraft fit the Rank 1 meta well. Use the P-40 to grind out the naval line, until you get the F-4U-18 Corsair at 2.7 BR. Use the Corsair to get the next Corsair, and the next Corsair, and the next Corsair, and the next Corsair, and when you have ground out Rank 4, get the F-80 Shooting Star. Use the F-80 to get the Phantom, and easy as pie, after 3 years of grinding, 987 aircraft later, and 9 months of playing time, you are finally ready to play the P-51 Mustang and P-47 Thunderbolt. Rank 1 has the reserve Boeing P-26P shooter. This is a fun boom and zoom pursuit aircraft. It is at its best when you maintain speed, a very American play style. The PBY Catalina can carry 4 1,000-pound bombs, though it is slower than a wet week. The PBY is lucky headwinds are not modeled in the game, otherwise it would be flying backwards at full military power. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? The rest of Rank 1 is filled out with the nondescript US aircraft of the late 1930s, except for the P-36 Hawk. This is an aberration in the US tech tree until the F-86 Sabre appears. The P-36 has good climb combined with low wing loading. Outturn 109s, boom and zoom biplanes, perform wingovers on the Finnish coffers, sorry got confused, Finnish Fokkers. Stay away from the Ki-27 though, they are coughing coffers. Rank 2 starts with the P-40 and ends with the VMF Corsair. The P-40 is an underappreciated aircraft in World War II. When the Allies were on the ropes, it was the P-40 holding the line in North Africa, Syria, Burma and the South Pacific. In the game, the Allison and Merlin engine variants play almost the same, and are strong at 2.7 BR. The Corsair is even stronger at the same BR. What an aircraft! Its teething issues kept it off carriers until 1944, as a result the Marines received the Corsairs as land-based fighters. The Corsair improves as an aircraft through to the 4B variant at 6.0 BR. Rank 2 is where US specialization begins. The 5th Air Force in the Southwest Pacific was irritated with B-17s being unable to sink ships from high altitude, and Beaufort's missing with torpedoes. The solution was to skip bomb at 50 feet altitude. However, the B-25s and A-20s needed to be able to suppress the anti-aircraft fire from ships. In US Freedom fashion, many 50 caliber guns were strapped on the front and side of the bombers. A hallmark of American CAS. Rank 3 is where some of the iconic US Air Force and US Navy aircraft start appearing, legends like the Hellcat, Thunderbolt, Mustang and B-17. None of which match the air-realistic battle meta. It is also where the US tech tree becomes a tedious grind. The P-47 Thunderbolt makes its appearance in the tech tree at 4.0 battle rating. It is brilliant in the close air support role for ground forces, however it started as a long-range high-altitude escort fighter. In the low-altitude dogfight battle royale mode, it requires discipline and patience. 2 attributes War Thunder players have in short supply. Until jets, the US playstyle is height, energy, boom and zoom, while letting the 50 caliber guns shred anything in front of them. If this sounds unappealing, then stick to the Rank 3 Corsairs. Rank 4 continues with more of the same. The P-38 is a high-speed boom and zoom interceptor, as is the Korean War P-51D Mustang. However, the P-51H appears at 6.3 BR and dominates. The Bearcat and Tigercat fill out the Rank 4 naval line, and are exceptionally powerful fighters. The Skyraider and Mauler make close air support Doddle and ground forces, and the prop bomber line ends with a B-29, which has bombs for days. At Rank 5 you enter the jet era. The United States has the best straight-wing jets. The F-80 Shooting Star is the best of the early jets, and at 7.0 BR it's extremely competitive. The F-2H Banshee and the Douglas Skyknight are both excellent introductory jets. The highlight of Rank 5 is the F-86 Sabre. In the game it is as good as its record and reputation in real life. Unfortunately, this means it fights supersonics and missile-armed jets. To add to its woes, the Korean war jets are stuck in BR compression and face aircraft and weapon systems from the 1980s. The Sabre is fun to play, but it can be frustrating to get missiled by a supersonic. Rank 6 introduces the Vietnam-era jets. The best grinder is the A4 Skyhawk, which comes with a strike aircraft start, enabling you to bomb bases, and then dogfight with a missile loadout. The F-86 F Sabre has 4 cannon in the nose, which is nice, but it is at 9.0 BR, which is not nice. Grind your way with the Skyhawk to the F-8 Crusader and the F-4C Phantom. Spend some time with the Phantom, as it is an excellent introduction to the top-tier meta, but with the safety and security of an F-82 style main gun pod. Before entering Rank 7, make sure to buy a mouse with 2,147,483,648 buttons. This may seem like a lot of 32 buttons, but to survive at top tier, you will need to program every one of them. The general rule is a button for each step in locking on a target with a radar and firing a missile, which will then lock onto a random pixel on the other side of the map. The best top-tier players have a mouse for each hand, and in some cases, both feet too. The US tech tree was off the hook until Joanna Downer came along. What are US aircraft good at anyway? It turns out, they are good at everything. The United States was in the envious position of wealth, technology, industry and government backing, where the US forces could create a unique aircraft for every role. If you need a long-range all-weather interceptor, why reuse the P-38 when you can create the P-61 Black Widow? If you are unsure whether the Skyraider is better than the Mauler as a naval strike aircraft, why not both? Give the Pacific Fleet the Skyraider, and the Atlantic Fleet the Mauler. If the P-51 Mustang needs more range and hitting power, spoiler it didn't, why not stick 2 Mustangs together and give the imaginatively named Twin Mustang a main gun pod? In War Thunder, this level of US specialization means, in every game mode, there is an American aircraft to complete a task. You need to destroy 80 ground targets with a Rank 3 bomber? Say hello to the B-25J with 1,000-pound bombs and its 650 caliber machine guns. You need to bomb 6 bases? Use the Thunder Chief or Corsair too. You need to torpedo ships? Jump over to naval with the BTD-1. You need to bomb tanks to complete a task? Throw a dart at the US tech tree and fly what it lands on. In summary, should you grind the US aviation tech tree? Yes. US forces give the nod. Cough yeah.